Hey Booktube, it's V. Today we are going to discover and discuss some stuff that I found on Reddit. The most unrealistic part of fantasy books is when 18-year-old boys spend 5 books insisting that they're not the chosen one, instead of immediately saying, yeah, sounds about right. At Johnny McNulty deserves some credit for that, so shout out, man. Unless you're Quentin Coldwater, and you need multiple books to realize that you're not special. Yeah. Okay, so I've read The Magicians, or at least the first book in the series. I don't know. That entire series is about a bunch of kids that are like arrogant, too smart for their own good, and then they realize that they're not as special as they thought they were. And that's like the deeper meaning behind it, and you know, you have magic and cool stuff, and this is also probably one of the few times where I will say that the show is way better than the book, but I digress. But yeah, Quentin Coldwater could probably use like a cold drink of water poured over his head, you know, give him some perspective. Ooh, alternate title. How much can we abuse this one guy before he's permanently depressed? By Lev Grossman. Harry Potter and the Post-Adolescent Malaise. Did I pronounce that right? I don't know. I'm not that classy. The Magicians by Lev Grossman. Would your life really be better if you found out that magic was real? Magic is very dark in the series and there's always a cost. And it's complicated and there's a lot of like really scary things out there. It's not the magical whimsy that everybody who grew up with, say, Harry Potter or Chronicles of Narnia expects that it would be. Going back to our original topic, that's pretty much the protagonist's response in Legend of Korra, only she's like 4 at the time. I'm the Avatar and you gotta deal with it! Yeah. Korra kinda seemed a little bit cocky at the beginning of the show, especially when she had to fake being humble when she passed her firebending test. I'm actually on season 4 of Legend of Korra, and I'm enjoying it. Not as much as Avatar, but I think that it's a good story on its own. Going back to I'm the Avatar and you've got to deal with it, I love that Korra is the opposite to Aang in so many different ways. She has difficulties with air, while Aang has obstacles with earth. Aang spent most of his journey in denial of his duty as the Avatar, and the inevitable final confrontation. Korra defined herself as the Avatar from early on, so when stuff happened, she really had to think about it and redefine herself. I remember reading that her and Aang were great foils and roles as the Avatar as well. Aang didn't want the responsibility of being the Avatar for the longest time and ran. Korra wanted to be the Avatar for a world that didn't really want one. That's another thing that I thought was really weird about Legend of Korra. Korra is very, very eager to be the Avatar, save the world, do everything she can to do good. But most people are like, we're over it. I appreciate people not wanting to be saved all the time, but come on. If you have someone who wants to do good in the world, put them to work. We could definitely use it. Well, The Wheel of Time is 14 books long, and Rand only insists this for the first 2 books. Yeah, I'm gonna try to be careful on this thread because I just started Wheel of Time again, and it's been like 15 years since I read it the first time. And by read it, I mean the first 3 books because they were really long. I like the fact that there are many false dragons in Wheel of Time. All those young guys who said, I've got this, but were wrong. The Andrew Wiggins of dragons, if you will. Who's Andrew Wiggins? Canadian basketball player. Much like his baskets, that reference went way over my head. I have a 15-year-old son, and he would agree that he's the chosen one before the speaker even finished their sentence. I think all teenagers would. When I was a teenager, I spent a lot more time reading books than I did hanging out with friends. And I thought that in order to be worthwhile as a human being, you had to do something that was worth somebody writing a story about you. Obviously, that is very, very toxic and a very bad way to look at things. But I have the benefit of hindsight and being in my 20s and not being the teenager that I was back in the day. I also think that the chosen one trope, being such a big part of fantasy at the time, or basically the biggest part of fantasy at the time, probably contributed a lot to that idea that I had. Probably also to the idea that this person's son has. Chosen one stories are just so simple, and they're so easy to get behind, and everybody loves them. So I don't see that trope or that idea going out of fashion anytime soon. Right? I'm 37 and have been directly involved in exactly 0 world-altering events. But I'm still pretty sure I'm the chosen one. Hey, everybody's the hero of their own story. The epic music in my head that scores my life most days would indicate that I'm actually the chosen one. There can't be 2 of us, can there? Is one of us the bad guy? Well, that took a twist I wasn't expecting. Maybe one of us is the bad guy. In fact, you know what? Dibs. That got real quick. But hey, who doesn't love surprise bad guy? Damn it! You can't take that from me! I'll get you for this! I'll burn down your village and... Wait a second. Have you read the Lightbringer series yet? The main character is about 15 years old, and the first scene is him meeting an insane mage, and him screwing with Kip by throwing every single chosen one cliche at him, and Kip half believing him and was sort of excited, and one of the guys goes, "You're a little arrogant shit, you know that? You actually believed me." It was a trap the whole time, wasn't it? And I really need to read the Lightbringer series. I own like 500 books that I haven't read, and I am behind. More Lightbringer. I love how Lightbringer approached this cliche. The protagonist is sort of on edge, and goes throughout the books believing them, disbelieving, doubting. What makes it all better is that it may or may not actually be true. A healthy dose of self-doubt is good, I suppose. Not like an all-consuming feeling of self-doubt, but you know, enough to keep you humble. The fact that people like us, exposed to this chosen one genre for so long, feels this way is why the twist in Jade Empire, the video game, was so genius. Old Beard Man tells the player that only we can save the world, and at no point does the player or character even question it. Brandon Sanderson did some shenanigans with the same premise in some of his books, but I won't spoil them. Thank you for that. This trope is just so ingrained in what a lot of people see as fantasy. Basically, you have this chosen one character, you have this big baddie, and then they have to go save the world. And you're along for the ride. You kind of know how it's going to end. You know, happy ending, character saves the world, etc., etc., but you still are interested. And you kind of suspend belief for a second, because even though you know that it's going to have a happy ending, or you highly suspect it's going to have a happy ending, you still want to come along for the ride. It's probably because there's so many things in real life where we really wish that the little guy had any sort of chance against the big guy, or where we wish that a normal person that maybe we knew or maybe was ourselves had any chance of being the hero when saving everybody. Because in real life, we just don't have that power. So maybe that's why this trope is so ingrained in our understanding of fantasy and fiction, if we want to be completely general about it. I was wondering what you meant by Sanderson shenanigans, and then I remembered, oh boy, he got us all pretty good there. That reread was an eye-opener. You feel so stupid. It's all right there from the beginning. My favorite part about this, assuming we were talking about blank, is that spoilers! I'm going to close this before I regret everything. I think it's more realistic when the character is some sort of peasant or other low-born type in a medieval fantasy setting, because in that setting, they were essentially told their whole lives that their only purpose was to work for their lord. So they probably really did believe that they were absolutely nothing special. But if the character was a prince, they'd absolutely believe that they were super special because they've been raised their whole lives believing that they are special and better than others. That's pretty true. I kind of get annoyed when a bunch of the chosen one characters, especially in like YA fantasy, are some prince or princess or someone who's special. Do you want to feel special? Yeah, there's a reason I don't sing, y'all. How many 18-year-olds love embracing responsibility? Fair point, but how many think that they're the center of the universe? All of them. I am the chosen one, therefore anything I do is what the chosen one will do. Bring me nachos! Huzzah! I was chosen to rave, not... I was chosen to rave, not to save. Okay, I desperately want that story now. Guy just wants to party, but random protestations to that effect and or drunken ramblings accidentally come out as cojones that incidentally inspire the exact right person. I mean, this is why Josh was in The Magicians. Everybody needs that good time friend, you know? Helps you get through the day. Chosen One leads a revolution against the Dark Lord simply because he banned alcohol, and Chosen One needs to plan an epic party to hook up with the girl he met in Chapter 1. I'd read that. I think 18 is too old. 11-year-olds are the ones who won't really grasp the consequences as well. I think most 11-year-olds are pretty chill. It's when they hit 13 that everything seems to go downhill. Teenagers are also short-sighted, but they would forget that part until the responsibilities come a-knocking. I'm 18, so I can confirm. I've been 18 before. I also can confirm. Keep that stuff as far away from me as possible. Okay, thanks. Wonder if there's a book where the teenage chosen one buys into his own hype a bit too much and becomes a raging asshole. Never-ending story. The movie ends at the book's halfway point, before Bastian goes a little mad with power and becomes the next Dark Lord. Spoilers? Isn't that Vader's story? Darth Vader's story is everyone telling him he's the chosen one, but not letting him do chosen one shit because of vague reasons. You're looking for Terry Goodkind. Too bad Terry himself is an ass. Also heard his writing is awful. It is, don't bother. Yeah, I was thinking of reading Terry Goodkind, but then I saw Daniel Green's video on what a jerk he is, and that made me not want to read him. Sorry, not sorry. But he should be. I, for one, would love to read a fantasy series where all the main cast is in their late 20s to early 30s. Me too, because then I'd have characters that were my own age. I feel like once you get past 25, or maybe this is just me, you kind of feel like your life is over. At least like the fun, party, go on adventures type of your life is over. I don't even have kids yet, man. But anyways, back to the point. There are plenty if you go outside the YA area. Ooh. Okay, so I've noticed something in fantasy readership circles. There's like the YA fantasy reading camp, which is perfectly fine. If that's what you love to read and what like makes your life happy, go for it. But then there's like other fantasy that's more gritty or long or not just formulaic cookie cutter trope stuff. I feel like once you get past YA, your horizons expand a lot. As always, read what you want, but YA's got its own thing, and I don't think I'm a jerk for pointing that out. Try the First Law series. The Stormlight Archive still feels very much gathered towards a younger audience. The First Law, on the other hand, is not. That's an understatement if I've ever seen one. First Law, I think that's Joe Abercrombie's series. That's another one that I really want to start. I think Stormlight is for adults too. Deals with some deep issues, and the lore requires adult-level nerdiness. Nerdiness is a really hard word to say at the end of the sentence when you're losing your breath. Mistborn, though, is more YA. I really enjoyed Mistborn, but I didn't get YA vibes from it when I read it. Seriously, why aren't there fantasy protagonists like LeBron or Baker Mayfield, literally chosen ones, who are just like, yeah, I totally got this, and then proceed to lay waste? Mostly because the fate they tend to be chosen for doesn't involve millions of dollars, hordes of admirers, and your children set up for forever. It involves an end, potential failure, and the concept that you will outlive your loved ones or never have any loved ones. That's really sad, actually. I know that sometimes being a hero means that you have to sacrifice stuff, but I don't want to think about that. I just want the story. That's also kind of crazy. Why do superpowers also come with crushing burdens? I guess that's why Iron Man is refreshing. He seems to be having a good time. Okay, I know Iron Man goes through a lot, but he still seems to take it better than Batman. Next in tragedy is his whole backstory. To continue the sports analogy, most of them are undrafted free agents, rather than mortal locked #1 picks right out of high school. Tom Brady, the true chosen one. The Dragon Reborn. That isn't true. I would want to be the chosen one, but I'd never accept that I was one, even if I literally was. That was helpful, man. Go save the world with that. I feel like the Traveler's Gate series by Will Wright does this in an interesting way. Without too many spoilers, the main character isn't the chosen one. That's his friend. After an attack on their village, his friend discovers that he's the chosen one. There's this prophecy about him ending an evil overlord, and he just runs with it, no questions asked, as an arrogant teenager would do. Meanwhile, the actual main character is out of luck and has to find his own way to becoming strong enough for whatever adventure he'll have to face. That kind of makes me feel like if Tolkien rewrote Lord of the Rings from Samwise Gamgee's perspective. This makes me want to pick up that series even more. Or when an 18-year-old is the world's best hacker, or anything else really. I don't know, this level of freedom and ignorance and youth, speaking as one of those hackers at that age, I could do things that I probably couldn't or wouldn't do now. Not speaking maliciously hacking anything, of course you are. But using things in a manner that is unintended, because I didn't know I shouldn't have been able to do that. Now as I've gotten older, I have many more preconceived notions that many times actually aren't really there. My youth is far gone and away, but people still refer to me as a hacker in person, and I blink at them and say, no. But I suppose they are, or were, right. Right, but there's a difference between that and the story declaring you the best in the world. That's fair, but if everybody sees you as a hacker, doesn't that become your story? If you like what I do, please hit the subscribe button and join the Cap Nation. We'd love to have you. I do at least one Reddit conversation video every week, and I also do book reviews, which are also pretty fun. I mostly read fantasy, like epic fantasy, urban fantasy, and really dark fantasy. But sometimes I'll throw in a YA book or something random in there if I'm just feeling it. And if you think I suck at this whole YouTube thing, tell me down below in the comments and I'll try to suck better next time. Bye.